Very pretty, a lot of places, really enjoyed a lot about it.
Yeah. Working well, you want rain, go to, the inside path.
Yeah, I don't like all that.
I'll take snow, but I don't.
Yeah, I like.
Yeah, I was out there in Oregon for a little while and it was not.
Linda, is it? Okay, great. So it looks like we have quorum today, so we can actually approve both of the minutes from, August and from, July. And why don't we go ahead and get started, and then, you know, if anyone joins late, I mean, that'll do that.
Do y'all want to try using the microphones? It might record a little better.
Is it not picking us up?
It's just a different system.
Do we have to press
Some
to
are
talk?
just too fancy for us.
I know. Okay, well, don't worry about it.
Table, and the microphone, like,
I probably just turn it on and then,
We don't have to do anything?
yeah, I don't think you do have to do anything.
Maybe we should test it out.
Just have to turn it on.
Might check.
No, that's fine. Forget I said anything.
All right.
I'm sorry, what did you say? What?
What did you say?
I'm sorry, what did you say for record?
All right, so, are we recording somewhere?
Yes, we are recording.
Okay, so why don't we go ahead and, call the meeting to order? And, has everybody had a chance to review the agenda for today? And do we have any discussion on that? Any motion to approve?
I move to approve the agenda.
Okay, second? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Agenda is approved. And then, the minutes, we're gonna go ahead and we'll do each one by one. So, July's minutes, can I have a motion to approve July's minutes, or do we have any discussion on it? Motion to approve the July minutes? Okay, go, yeah, Linda, motion to approve.
Okay.
And then second, and then, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And any opposed? Okay, and then, for, August as well, approved.
Second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
So July and August. Minutes are approved. That's the easy, right? The easiest thing we get to approve. Okay, so, today we have, today, we're happy to have a presentation from the owner of Florence Landfill and Florence Recycling, Paul Florence. And, we really appreciate you coming here. You know, kind of the operations of landfills and recycling centers is something that we talk about a lot, so it'd be, just really helpful for us to have you.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, appreciate you coming. So we can just go ahead and jump into your presentation. You're the main event today.
All right.
instead of tripwire up. for
Yeah, I
me
don't
here, so drag all the computers off the floor. You're using the keyboard?
There you go.
Thank you.
Hang on, I'm gonna get full screen.
Do what?
You wanna put it to full screen and leave it like this? It doesn't matter. Is it? Oh, you want that one? Yeah, that's fine. You have to show me that. Okay.
Well, I'm Paul Florence. My wife and I own Florence Recycling, Florence Landfill. Appreciate y'all having us come tonight. My daughter Holly, you probably know that. I just give you a brief presentation and feel free to ask me questions about anything. If I can answer them, I will. All right. Yeah, I don't think we're.
No, the PowerPoint, there you go, now, let's see,
There we go.
now you go jump back
Okay.
and forth.
Go back one. There you go.
Okay.
You love it.
I guess I gotta read all that, but, my wife's our local resident. She's a lifelong resident. I moved here from Jacksonville when I was 13. Actually, my wife served on this committee from 1990. I can't remember how many years, but for years she served on EPAC. She's also on the Plan Commission for years. And then when she was, one of her big things when she was on EPAC was getting a hazardous materials facility. Gainesville didn't have anything, the county didn't have anything, so her and some of the others are instrumental in getting the county commission to put the thing at Lavina Brown when it got built, so that citizens and businesses would have a place to drop stuff off instead of just putting it in the garbage, which worked out really good for everybody. She helped Frank with the she was on the landfill site for that committee. The county, when they closed the landfill in Archer, they were looking for and all. And that's a picnic site. It's South Island site, but they never built a landfill. They would be with you on that committee. One of our big things too is the sheriff's department, which, part of the plan commission stuff, I guess. They were going to spend gazillions of dollars to build a huge new sheriff's office, and she kept telling them, because we were on the east side over there, there's hardly anything over there. And she said, look, when Dixie closed that shopping center, let's buy that, put it in there. So that was a few of the accomplishments that were done while she was on the board. She certainly couldn't take full credit for any of it. So we've been involved in county politics, and she actually ran for county commission one time too. She said she'd never do that again. She didn't want to eat another piece of rubber chicken in her life. So anyway, we're a small local company. We're not some big corporation. We don't try to get a lot of outside people to haul stuff into our landfill and make a whole lot of quick, easy money or something like that. We're for the long haul. We have about 18 employees. There's 7 family members, including Joni. Our daughter Holly here, she's certified lead member, whatever you call it.
Yeah.
And we do a lot of leads jobs at UF. Are you all familiar with leads? Do you know what that is?
It's a waste tracking. Well, you get LEED credit for environmentally friendly buildings. There's like gold and silver and bronze, and you get certain credits for certain things. And waste is one of the things you can get credit for recycling out of the waste. But you can get it for energy efficient windows. You can get it for all sorts of things. So that's the goal that the university and the government like to have contractors and new buildings meet. I'm not sure. I can't remember.
I was just gonna look at it for the
I
second,
can't
we should all know what LEED is.
LEED.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And for instance, architects are often LEED certified,
Yeah.
different people in different.
Yeah, to make the buildings more eco-friendly.
So we track away from these jobs for the contractors, or, most of it's UF. I think we have done a few private people, some of the larger ones that have built jobs like that. So Holly tracks that stuff. She's come up with a lot of her own, forms and stuff that work real well. We try to pay our employees a decent wage, all of them make way above minimum wage. I feel like they're all family. I do the same jobs they do. I don't ask anybody to do anything I wouldn't do. I drive a truck, I run equipment, I pick stuff out of the trash, just whatever it takes. So, and we have a real laid back company. We don't really have a big structure. I mean, you know, if I say to do something, they'll do it. If Holly says to do something, they'll do it. But, you know, by and large, they all work together. And, you know, if one of them comes in there and says, you know, well, you know, I need some help with this, but people, you know, why are you telling me? You know, go ask Georgia, find out who can help you, you know. So they all work together, and we've had, I guess, a lot of our employees have been here over 20 years, so we're kind of real proud of that. And everybody likes doing what they do. That's actually Jody, and that's Holly right there, little Holly.
Yeah.
That's his brother Cody. That was in October of '90, I think it was, when the newspaper made a little article about Joni joining the EPAC force. He also homeschooled the kids quite a bit, so until they got older and when they go to high school and middle school.
Boys and daughters.
My son would work, he'd do his homeschool and stuff till lunchtime, and I would go home at lunch. Our landfill at that time, our operations were out near Archer. And then I'd take him to work after lunch, and at 12 years old, he could run all the equipment as good as any full-grown person could. You know, he got a real good education on, you know, both sides of it. So these are the things we're permitted to take by and large. Kind of the simple way of doing it is, if you built a house, we could take everything you use to build a house. We can't take anything you buy after the house is built and you bring in. So that's just the simplest way. We tell people that all the time. And then we're working, we put in a can. Well, you put parts of the building in the can, but you can't put anything you buy, like generally at Walmart or something like that. That's
You said that these are the things you're permitted. Who permits you?
the,
Where do you get the?
well,
County?
there's a state ordinance and a county ordinance, and they differ a little bit. The state allows us to take asbestos as long as it's non-friable, and there's some conditions. It has to be put in a certain place and covered immediately with 2 feet of material. The county, however, prohibits disposal of asbestos, so we don't take any asbestos. The closest place to take asbestos is Live Oak, I think.
Oh, county rules, huh?
County has it's 8719, that's the landfill ordinance. Yes, ma'am.
you have contracts with certain companies, or is
We-
it individual?
Well, we have contracts with like GRU, you know, people like that they want a contract, but Camsco wanted us to have a contract with them, and they built the new hospital. Yeah, a few like that, but we just tell people, you know, say we're going to do the work, and you know, you pay us. If you're not happy with us, then get somebody else. I mean, we don't do a lot of contract stuff. In fact, this Camsco thing sent us, what was it, a 1,500 page, it was just unbelievable, the contract that they sent. And we said, no, we're like UPS. You know, we come to the site and deliver stuff and pick stuff up. You know, so we actually convinced them of that. I think they pared it down to about 40 pages or something. But we don't have any contracts where we obligate somebody to just use us.
So the reason I was asking is it with contracts long term, so yours is pretty much fluid, your
Right.
changes.
Now, we do for some governmental agencies, because that's just the way they work, you know, and usually those are set up, there'll be like a 3-year contract, and then an opportunity for a 2-year rollover or something like that. But we don't, it's in our industry, we're not in the garbage business, but we're all oftentimes related to that. And contracts are, in my opinion, pretty easy with those things. They try to get the business owners to sign these contracts for picking up their trash. And then there's all these little hidden things in there, and they never end up paying what they think they're gonna pay. They always rip them off. So we give a flat rate price. We tell people, you know, you can fill a container up level full with construction trash. And if you put some other than construction trash in it, and we have to pick it out or send it to the county, then you have to pay that tipping fee. We don't have any can rent. We tell them to keep the can for up to 30 days, you know, without anything. We don't charge them a tipping fee or anything like that. And I think that, together with the fact that we answer the telephone when people call, I think that's why we've been pretty successful. I just can't stand that. You call these places and their menus changed and all that, you know. So we're real hands-on, you know. I mean, and like I said, like with the employees, if one of the drivers standing in the office and there's already 3 people on the telephone, the drivers answer the telephone. They know what to do. You know, nobody just stands around. You know? But we really have contracts, and that's caused us a little problem in the past. We've had some predatory companies come to town. It's mainly the big companies, you know, and they go around, they try to undercut your price, and which is, you know, we don't do that. If somebody's got their can on the job, that's their job. I look at it like if the block mason's got half the block finished, what are you going to do? Go up there and say, well, I'll do them for 10 cents a block less and finish the job? I mean, it's the same thing with us. We started it. We should be able to finish it. And 9 times out of 10, they end up calling us back because the cheap people that are a little unscrupulous, they don't get the job done anyway. So, well, get back to this. You know, basically, we could take this building, but we can't take the contents of the room. We can't take the table and the chairs and all that. Now, if there's stuff like these chairs are in there, this stuff does get put in the tin. I mean, it's just going to happen. These are really not a problem for us because we can send these to the steel yard. You know, we can recycle, you know, anything that's got a fair amount of metal in it. But like the tables and stuff, it seems silly because this is made out of the same material that a building will be made out of. But the DEP regulations are oriented from the source the stuff comes from, not what it is. And we can take PVC pipe, but we can't take PVC pool furniture that's made of pipe because it's furniture. And over the years, a lot of, mainly the larger companies that own these bigger landfills, they've lobbied DEP to change those rules. And my wife and I have gone to Tallahassee and argued against it because we consider ourselves as part of the construction industry. And if they change that so we could take all this other stuff, then it's no longer a C&D landfill. So you might as well have a Class 3 landfill or a Class 1. So, and the way it stands today is we can only take stuff that's from the construction, non-hazardous stuff. These are some of the things we're not permitted, like I said, with the asbestos, the state allows it, but the county doesn't. Obviously, we can't take medical waste. The pressure treated wood it's not that it's totally banned. It's that all facilities have to have a program in place to minimize the amount of EPA treated wood that gets put in the landfill because it contains arsenic. And we're seeing much less of that coming in nowadays than we did, 15, 20 years ago because it's not widely used anymore. There's several of them. There's an AQEH, I think it is, and there's another one. They have a lot of copper in them. They use copper instead of arsenic. And frankly, it's nowhere near the product that the CCA was. It rots off right at the ground pretty bad, but I guess it keeps the arsenic out of stuff. And obviously we don't take furniture, tires, or food waste. There's 2 components to our business. We have our transfer station on Hawthorne Road, which we built that and we opened it in 2002. We built it from about 2001 to 2002. And then our landfill, which is on Southeast 15th Street, it's 2.5 miles away from our transfer station. So our trucks and other people's vehicles will bring trash in, and it gets dumped on the floor there. And then back behind here, there's a lower area, and we have 200-yard walking floor semis that we load the trash that goes to the landfill into those. So none of our, well, not none, but most of our roll-off trucks don't go to the landfill. It's just the 2 semis go over there. And that cuts down a whole lot on our impact on the surrounding area. But we've done that since 2002. Prior to that, from 92 until then, all our operations were at the landfill.
How many acres is the landfill site?
The site's about 68 acres, but it's only like 32.5 acres. It's permanent for disposal area. And right now, since we've had it, it was used as a C&D landfill since the 60s. Right now, we're on track to use about an acre of space a year. And we take over half of the construction tracks in Washoe County. So we feel like we do a pretty good job of using the space in our landfill. This is kind of how the flow goes. Like if we put out a container on a job site, or we have a lot of big contractors haul to us. We have very few other roll-off companies haul to us. We just won't take trash from them, basically. I think we take stuff from Republic because we've been doing it for many, many years, and we don't have a problem with them. But we have a lot of people haul to us in trailers and pickup trucks, and then our roll-off trucks, like in the last picture. And virtually everything we get is commingled. It's not separated at the source. So it all comes in. We dump it in our transfer station here on a concrete pad in the building. And all of our staff and they all get certified as being spotters or operators. Whichever their job is. It's the state certification for that. And the main things we recycle the most of, actually, I'll get to the recycling part in a minute, but concrete, cardboard, and metal is mostly what we do. We do a lot of other reusable items that don't really fit into a specific category. Stuff like if we were to get this room full of chairs, we try to find somebody that wanted the chairs before we send them to the steel yard. So we always have the backup of being able to do that. And we try to work with Reuse Planet Reuse, and a few of the other people in town. If we get, I know Holly got, occasionally we put cans out for non-construction tracks, knowing that we're going to have to haul that stuff to the county. And there was a craft store that was closing, and I think we had 2 20-yard cans of it. It was all brand new stuff. I mean, it's still in the packaging, looks just like it's been taken off the shelf, which is what it was. So you got with them. We actually just took the container to them to pick out whatever you want. We'll deal with the rest of it. They picked it all out. They sold it all, and they made a little profit. People got a real good deal on a bunch of stuff. Now, and that we do that occasionally. Now, that's not a major part of our business because we don't deal with that kind of trash that much. But if we get, if we get some like real nice cabinets in or something, we try to find somebody that can use those instead of crushing them up and taking them to the landfill. What we don't pick out, we load into our semis. Like I said, our landfill is only 2.5 miles away. So our driver, who's older than me, a little bit. And we got a bunch of old dudes work there.
Bunch of old dudes.
Yeah.
I mean, if they're older than you, a bunch of old guys.
Well, I used to load it up on a dinosaur.
Right.
But what he'll pull in with an empty truck, And William, who's worked for us since he was a teenager, he's now
45.
45. He's the one that sorts the stuff with one of the machines and loads the truck. So he'll load the truck while Lenny's gone taking another load, and then he comes back. So, and generally haul about 6 loads a day from our transfer station to our landfill. And as far as recycling stuff goes, you know, it's, first of all, our numbers look horrendous for recycling. You know, what was it?
On paper, as
Yeah,
far
on
as the state and the
paper,
county,
it's like
the numbers they.
4% or something. We don't make up anything we do. I mean, we call it like it is. When we pull concrete out of a load, we don't recycle that. We pull it out of the loads or take it right from the job site if it's a whole load. And we take that to Florida Concrete Recycling. They crush that material up and then they sell it to the end user. That's what's counted as recycling, not what we do. Almost nothing we do is actually counted by the state as recycling because it's only recycled when it's sent to the end user as a product. So we're kind of the middle guy. We do all the dirty work. We pull all the stuff out of the trash, and then we take clean metal to the metal recycler, and then Trademark Metals probably doesn't even count it as recycled because they send it somewhere else and they make rebar out of it or some other product. And that's when it's actually recycled. And if you think about it, that makes sense. Otherwise, you'd be 200% recycling rate. Everybody be turning in all these numbers for the same material. So I just want to make that clear.
Yeah, can you say that again? Can you describe that again? Because I'm trying to get a handle on those lead numbers too, because we've been looking at them for another landfill. And so it's because there's like the lead numbers, but then there's that conversion we were talking about, how it gets converted to other numbers.
Right.
So just so I can understand it better.
If we got a load of chairs
Okay.
and we took those to a church, then we would recycle because that's going to an end user
Okay.
of the product. If we take concrete out of loads and we haul that concrete, we don't process concrete. All we do is pull it out. And we take that to Florida Concrete Recycling. And he crushes it up and he counts it as recycled because he's selling it as an end user product.
So you don't get to count it as
No,
recycled.
we don't count.
What does that
Now,
count?
a
What does
lot
that
of
count?
people do that though.
Yeah.
It, recycling numbers are a mess in this state. None of that stuff is anywhere near accurate because you have all these different people counting all this stuff. Like people go out and pick up yard waste and they count it when they pick it up. Then they take it to another facility and they count it when it comes in the gate. And then, you know, they eventually make
And
compost
they sell it
out
to
of
someone
or
for
something.
mulch and the mulch people count it.
Right. So it's only been,
Getting
you
counted.
can only recycle that thing once in that particular lifetime. Of course, you know, concrete can be done over and over again, but for that waste stream product, it's only once.
Does that corrupt, that sounds like it's corrupting the data, but are there players who are intentionally misrepresenting?
Yeah. And
And
we,
for gain?
yeah, we've got, I won't mention names or anything, but some of these big companies that have come to town, and by the way, they all come to town. First thing they do is come out and tell us they want to buy us out for a few pennies, and I can stay and run the place for minimum wage or something, you know. But they go in and they give them these great recycle numbers and everything. And we know they're not recycling this stuff. We follow their trucks. They take it to the landfill and dump it out. But they fill the paperwork out. And if people look at the paperwork, they don't follow trucks around. They don't know. And I don't know if it's illegal to do that or not, but we don't do that. If we recycle something, that we recycle it, you know. But if we pull it out and send it to somebody else, then we have. And we don't put down stuff that we don't pull out either.
So there are no legal requirements to name it and identify it properly?
Well, it's contained in the DEP rules that that's to be done. But now you have to keep in mind, like Leeds is a private entity. That's not government. They don't have any power of law or anything. And they're selling you a certification for your job. Like if you want to be silver, gold, platinum, whatever. Well, your goal is to want to be platinum, so you can put the big plaque out. And you can pay them a lot of money to put a plaque out there. It says you're a platinum Leeds project. So generally speaking, nobody argues about that. You know, they want the numbers to be high. In fact, we've gotten calls reporting like, hey, the numbers are too low. Can you do something? And first thing we do is we say, well, what's going on in the job? Was the site full of pine trees? When they cleared the site, did they use that wood for something? I mean, count that. And they go, oh yeah, well, we need to, talk to that guy and this and that, So sometimes they're doing a little more than they think they do, but like, we're not going to put down that we recycled a whole bunch of ceiling tiles or something because there's nothing we can do with it. So, but people do that. Now we recycle all the metal structure inside it. So generally, when loads come in, Holly or me or somebody in the office will go out from the lead project because it's all commingled, and it gets dumped on the floor. And we look at it. Sometimes we spread it out a little bit first, and we say, okay, well, it's got 20% metal in it, 10% concrete, figures like that, and that's what we turn in. And if the load weighed 8 tons, and it was only 4 tons of it was stuff we could do something else with, and 4 tons went to the landfill. I mean, we don't tell them, oh, we only took 500 pounds to the landfill. Yes, ma'am.
Like you explained, you have these low recycling numbers because you're counting it the right way. You're giving it to the end processor to count. But among the stuff that you ship out to like Florida Concrete Recycling or somebody else recycle versus the remaining waste, what's that percentage?
We don't really track that. I mean, we're so overburdened right now with paperwork, it's unbelievable. The way we look at these things, generally speaking, is that, like I said, we only haul about 6 loads a day from our facility to there, and we get 60, 70, 80 loads a day. And they're not the same size loads, they're a lot of 20 and 30-yard cans, but we probably recycle by weight, maybe 25%, not recycled, but sort out about 25% of what we do. Now, some of the stuff never makes it to it. Like if we put a lot of cans out for specific materials, so they don't go to the landfill or the transfer station. If we put one out for metal and it's clean enough, if the people listen to what you tell them, then we take that directly to the metal place. So we take a lot of concrete directly to the concrete. Yes, ma'am.
So with these companies reporting this data, are there any auditing firms or people that come out to audit any of these companies?
We have never had anybody come out to our facility and look at it and say, well, where did this go? Or what did you do with this? One of the big things is everybody was saying they were recycling drywall. And there is a place supposedly,
Lacquer, somewhere.
somebody starting a drywall recycling place. We'll see how that goes. But the closest place we could find was a Canada. So there's no way you're going to load drywall up and haul it to Canada. Now, we did get DEP to approve us using drywall as intermediate cover. So if they really need those numbers or something, then we can put a can out for just drywall, take it to our landfill, and use it for intermediate cover.
What is intermediate cover?
Well, that's not final cover. It's just like when you put the track down.
Cover in a layer.
Right, in the layers. Yes, sir, exactly. I don't think that's recycling in any way, shape, or form. We don't need the drywall for intermediate cover. We get plenty of dirt, overburden and stuff, but that's the kind of thing that's going on in the industry or whatever you want to call it with recycling numbers. Just so you know, I mean, I'm talking to you in the real world. I do this all the time, So,
does anybody care? I mean, if
what they
I
care
went up-
about
People
is
get the
they
big
care
I
about
went up
getting
to Tallahassee, would I get a warm reception if I said I wanted to come in and talk about the boondoggle that is recycling in the state?
No, because he probably wouldn't be well received. I mean, I don't know. I mean, we've told people about it, of course, and we just got to where we just do our thing. They want, and I'm not saying they're all bad people. Don't get me wrong. The whole thing is not corrupt or evil or anything like that.
Not really
But
accountable.
they push to get those numbers. You know, like whoever the owner of the building is, they want to make sure they get whatever their goal is. So they push the contractor, and then the contractor's calling us. You know, we're like, well, quit putting the stuff in the can if you don't want a landfill. What am I going to do? You tell me what to do with it, and that's what I'll do with it. You know. So, but it's all in all, it's a good thing. Though. It's not a bad thing. It's okay that some people fudge the numbers, because there's a consciousness out there that something needs to be done with it besides just landfill. So it is a good thing, but it has problems, and everything's like that.
I think material is still being pulled out and sent for recycling. It's just being counted too often. So I don't think people are saying they're recycling concrete and they're not. I think they're recycling the concrete, but they're counting it and he's counting it and he's counting it.
Well, that can be too. Yeah.
Well, I mean, this seems to be like a overall problem with recycling. They just did the big expose on plastic bags, and 9% of those are getting recycled. So
Right.
it sounds like it's an issue with our recycling system that extends beyond.
I was just hate to hear about it.
Used to process that report with county, the state, and it's just, there's basically one person on the state level who reviews all of our county material coming in. We'll get, from time to time, they'll say this one looks off, you double check it. But other than that, that's about all it is.
One person.
Basically, I've only spoken to one person the entire time, and I've been here 7 years.
Is that Patrick?
It is.
Oh, okay. Okay. Would you introduce yourself, please?
Oscar Kirby, it's always Kirby Department, currently the waste collection alternative.
So Gus is, and he and Gus work together, and Gus is in Panama right now. I thought you maybe were a reporter. So.
We all thought you were reporters, so we were really polite and really attentive.
Okay, so you may want to move forward just a little. Patrick may be able to answer some questions, as far as some of those base numbers and things
In
like that.
general, it's lack of understanding by folks of who reports when, and there's no one to correct them. And everyone's just trying to do their best, and it doesn't go well. No one in the industry actually cares about that number that they get. We all know it's not accurate. It's basically just politicians care.
Yep.
That's
Pretty much exactly. Whoa.
Yeah, it's,
Helen, you have a
I have
question?
two questions. On drywall, is it worth to recycle that? Can something be,
Well, that's, I think actually up here on the screen about the cost of benefit. We could recycle a huge amount of what comes in there if cost wasn't an issue. But obviously, you know, I mean, what would it cost to haul something to Canada, or even for that matter, to haul it 200 or 300 miles? Yeah, and what are you doing for the environment then? Just putting a whole lot of diesel smoke in the air to run back and forth, you know? I mean, everything's a trade-off, you know.
second question, when you bring in the material and you take it to the transfer station, how do you sort it? You sort it by hand, you use machine?
Machinery and by hand. Yep. We have,
slides have pictures of it.
Oh, okay.
Oh, after the. Well, that's a video of the transfer station, of the building that we all done.
yeah, we're real proud of that. We built it, I designed it, and we built ourselves our own money, no grant money, no nothing.
so the trucks go around behind the back where you see the front loaders, right?
To get loaded.
To get loaded.
Yeah, the semi goes around the rest of them here. We use a lot of recycled or diverted concrete to build this place. At the time, we were working with Florida Rock, and it took a lot of concrete to build that. And we knew that they would oftentimes have concrete left over on trucks. So, and it's somewhat of a problem. They've got it handled better now, but back then, you know, they would dump it and have to haul it off and stuff. And we got them to bring us that concrete. And, you know, we told them they don't like to do that because people tell them they want the concrete, and when they show up, the people say, well, I'm not ready, I don't know what to do with it, you know? So we always kept something formed up while we were building, like all the sidewalks and scale approaches, anything that was small that wasn't critical, you know? And then if they showed up and they had concrete and we didn't need it right then, we just have them windrow it out in the back. And if you catch it at the right time as it's setting up, you just take an excavator, take the teeth and comb through it. It's almost like it's fresh concrete. And we could use that part of it. The whole parking lot, there's actually millings underneath that dust and stuff on it. But we got concrete wash from Florida Rock, and that was one of the things they would do when they got concrete back. They would wash it and reuse the rock. And then they had this big pile of basically slime. And after a while, it would dry into a product not unsimilar to lime rock. So we got that from them. They didn't charge us anything for it, you know. And we put 6 inches of that down. And then we got millings when they were milling Hawthorne Road, I think is when that happened. And we did all of that with milling. So, you know, all that was, you know, recycled and used material, you know. I'm really, really cheap. I don't like to spend money on things I don't have to the point that I'll do stuff and it ends up costing me more. But then let's do this. Like right now, I called this morning for a muffler for one of our little machines. It's just a piece of pipe with a pipe coming in and a pipe $704. So, you know, we're going to make our own muffler now. It's probably going to cost me $1,000.
For 3 days.
I'll burn the motor up into the screw or something. I'm not paying $700 for a muffler. Yeah.
If I could just comment and I had a question. I'm a builder and they've been providing me dumpsters forever. I've been there 50 times. I've been there once with just the dump stuff with the trailer. And there's guys, you know, you back up and you dump it out and they got guys, you know, with front end loaders and stuff moving around and separating it. I used to go out way back when you were on 15th Street. I actually built a house in Woodbine that was pretty close to Martha Monroe.
Okay.
Yeah, anyway, they said you guys were really good neighbors. I don't remember what, but they.
Well, they're fantastic neighbors around there. We just love doing that.
And I had a question, which was, are you retail? In other words, if somebody here tears down a fence or something they got and they dump there? Or
Yeah, we don't take treated events, you know.
Right, but I mean the fact that.
Yeah, anybody can bring.
Yeah.
He's asking if we get like a bunch of product and do we resale it at the site?
Yeah.
Is that what
And you get a free cold drink when
That's
you're done.
right. You
get a free cold.
That's right.
Yeah, we used to have a Coke machine out back and we wanted to give them free drinks. So, you know, me being a little cheap, you know, the Coke machine worked. It was there when we bought the place. So I'd load it up with Coke and we'd give the guys, if we set it on a quarter, we'd give them a quarter to go get their drink. So my wife said, you know, that's kind of stupid. Why don't you just get a refrigerator? You know, if you're going to sit here with a quarter, you know. Well, the Coke machine worked. I mean, you know, we ended up with a refrigerator.
Go back one more and it has the square footage of the, hit it again. There you go.
Square footage. Oh.
Just to show when we open the transfer station and the square footage.
Yeah, it's like 13,000 square feet. It's decent size.
Okay.
You know, and I guess we pretty much already said all that. This is her husband, Michael, and he's all proud that he's gotten his certification. So. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. Just kind of focus it. So did that answer your question, Jan, or were you asking, because I thought he was asking if like people, like if anybody is,
We don't.
should we just pull up?
No, we don't really do that. We used to some extent, but you just have to be so careful these days if somebody gets hurt. And, you know, they're out there digging through a pile of lumber or something, and they hurt themselves. And, you know, every time you turn the TV on, there's 50 lawyers on there, you know, trying to sue somebody. So we started getting people to sign a waiver, and then we just quit doing it altogether.
When the price of lumber went up, we did full lumber and I advertised.
Yeah, but we put that.
Right.
We
pulled
set it
ourselves.
off.
I just need to drop it off. Like if you have that scale there, Like if I had a truck full of construction,
Yeah.
could I just
we
pull
get-
up there? I don't have to be a
We get
construction
those,
company?
yeah, sure, we get that all the time.
Okay.
The only people we really don't want to take stuff from is big out of town companies. And like, we have these companies come in here and like we do some demolition, not a whole lot, but Florida Concrete does a lot of demolition. And Osteen and Watson do a lot of demolition. They're all local people. We get these companies from Jacksonville and Orlando and Tampa and Miami coming here, and they, they're going to tear a building down. Well, they call us up and, they want dumping stuff cheap, they're going to bring us a lot of it and all that. We just tell them, no, we don't want it, haul it to Miami. What are you doing up here, So, I kind of hate to be that way in a way, but they're big boys. I mean, why are they coming up here trying to outbid us? We don't go to Miami and do that,
And a lot of them get the bid and then try to figure
Yeah,
out what
they
to do with the
do
trash.
that.
So then they're like, what am I gonna do with it? And we're like,
Yeah, then they're all mad. It's like,
what you should have figured out
we don't
before you
want all
took the
that.
contract. I don't know what to say.
Yeah.
they don't want to recycle anything. They just want to haul massive amounts to you and dump it and go home,
How many cubic yards can that hold?
That's a 20-yard container there. You can barely see the semi here. They'll hold 100 yards. We usually only load about 80 in them because of weight and stuff, By the way, you barely see a little cracker house back there. We remodeled that years ago, and one of our employees, George, lives in that house. He worked for us since he was 18 or something. There again, like 30 years.
Yeah, I saw that on a slide earlier, that people, that you had out, and I wondered how many units you had for people to work for you.
Well, we used to have more. We used to have about, I guess, 3 houses that people lived in, but I ended up tearing one of them down. I was paying more in taxes to the county than it was worth. And now it's just George. George lives there, and his wife lives there. The steel comes in loads. That's not really a very great picture there.
We've already picked out of load, getting
That's
loaded.
already been sorted out.
Did it become crusher to sort of reduce the volume?
Well, the excavators do a great job of that.
Pardon?
The excavators do a great job of that. The one excavator in here weighs about 80,000 pounds, and you actually have to be a little careful packing the stuff and tear the containers up. But we put the steel in. Most of the steel comes in looks just like that. It's just metal studs and all kinds of stuff, So this is roofing material that's coming in. We tried several times to do stuff with shingles, but it's just not ready yet. There's huge piles of shingles all over the country that these recycling places have just gone off and left. They tried grinding it up and putting it in highways, and you'll see big glowing articles about how they did it and everything. They'll put like a ton of ground up shingles and 1,000 tons of asphalt or something. If they go much, I'm just throwing numbers out, but if there's no way they could do like 50-50 or anything like that, because the road is just bust up. So that's kind of a big myth too with all that. And so we've tried grinding it up, and oh Lord, I mean, you talk about a nasty mess grinding shingles. You have to wear ear protection, and you have to wear masks to breathe.
Nails.
Yeah.
There's also a question of shingle grit. The amount that comes off shingles is unbelievable.
Oh yeah.
And that stuff, the grit has adhesive. Each one of those particles has adhesive. And if that's where it gets really bad, because if it washes off houses in every neighborhood, it goes into the sewers, the storm sewers. And the chemicals, this is not inert stuff. It goes down to the Paine Prairie.
Yeah, that's something. There's a lot of things that society could do that are very simple things that would make a big difference and stuff like that. I'm not one that really likes to make people do stuff, but there's no reason to use shingles. We could all have metal roofs. I mean, the metal roofs last for 50 years. When you take them off, We make new metal roofs out of it. It's no problem at all. Hey, there's people all over willing to buy the metal.
Well,
Nobody wants shingles.
it's upfront cost, that they don't wanna pay.
It is, it's a little more to put the metal roof down, but it's cheaper in the long run. I mean, I'm not a roofer in that industry or anything, but I'm telling you, I've taken the shingles off some of the houses in Gainesville, I know 4 times. So, and then with these new insurance regulations, with roofs can't be so many
10
years
years
old, we're getting a lot of shingles. A lot of them don't look that bad, really, you know, but.
The difference in price between shingles and metal has gotten less and less,
Mhm.
and
The labor for metal's got to be less than shingles, I would think. But, and we get a lot of metal roofs and we get a lot of metal roofing scraps, which we really like getting because they're easy to deal with and we make money at it, you know. I guess most of the roofers in town hall like that, pretty much. But anyway, even in the roofing loads, there's a lot of metal in them. You know, percentage wise, weight wise, it's probably, 5 or 10%. But there's no sense in landfilling any of it. You can do something else with. There's a lot of gutters and flashing and, chimney stuff and all that kind of thing, skylight. So it doesn't, we don't just take it to the landfill and dump it out and push it in the hole. These are some of the things we have a much harder time doing something with. These are busted up cabinets from a remodeling job. I think that's the load this fellow's just dumped. There again, it's a cost thing. If you had somebody, I have people come out there sometimes and they look at a load like that and I say, oh Lord, yeah, you ought to be able to do something with that. Somebody ought to do something with that. And I said, well, I'll load it up and bring it to your house for free. And I mean, yeah, you could make, how many birdhouses could you make out of it? But what are you gonna do with it? And it's, and the cabinets, I mean, I don't know what they looked like before they came to me, but I guess they didn't look that great, or they wouldn't have just smashed them all up, Now, sometimes we get some pretty nice cabinets, and we put them off, and, you can stick a little sign on their free cabinets, and people pick them up right away.
We've got them in our garages. Sometimes a good one will come in. We'll
Oh, yeah,
take them
we
to
got
our
them.
shop, we take them, use them ourselves.
I'm building a house right now, with a surprise for my wife.
Irene.
Yeah, my daughter told her, but I'm building her
He thought he was gonna build a whole house on that house.
Yeah.
Like, Dad, what do you, he's not gonna wonder where he's been the last few months.
I haven't.
Yeah.
My girl.
That was not gonna work. That wasn't gonna work either.
Anyway, so being cheap like I am, Ridgeway Truss will bring us trusses sometimes. Now, Ridgeway, that's another thing I need to touch on a little bit. There's a lot of recycling, reuse stuff that goes on in a community that the general population doesn't know anything about. Ridgeway Truss down on South Main Street, I know you know them, but maybe nobody else in the room does. They take all their tailings and their short pieces of wood and all, and they grind them up, and I think they're taken to the biomass plant, and they're used for fuel. And they don't make any money at that, but it diverts, bringing them to us and paying us to take them and everything. And it's a great use of it because it's a clean material. They know exactly what it is. So they're doing that. But then after they get trusses built, sometimes, I don't know why, people don't want them, or maybe they're wrong or whatever, but we get semi-loads of trusses every now and then. So our footers over there at this house needed to be 2 foot tall. Well, I got a whole load of 2 foot tall trusses.
Floor truss.
So, and then the roofing guys are always bringing plywood in, So I take the plywood, rip it down to 2 feet, nail it on the sides of the trusses, and there's my footers, I don't buy anything. I bought maybe 10% of the steel I needed for the job because people bring rebar in, and they throw out brand new stuff. And there's a reason they throw it out, because of labor costs. I mean, if they got 5 pieces of rebar left on the job, by the time they pay their guys to pick it up, take it to the shop, and store it, and then when they need rebar, they say, hey man, we need 8 pieces of rebar. And one of them says, yeah, there's some at the shop. So he goes and gets 5 there, comes back with 5, and then somebody else has to go to Florida Rock and get 3 more, So you kind of have to understand why they do this, So we get a lot of rebar, and if it's decent sized pieces, we keep it and resell it as rebar itself. And we always have the default of being able to take it. So,
Just real quick, it's 7:00, which is our public comment period, so is there anybody who wanted to, Patrick, you're not a reporter, does anybody else, okay, just wanted to check in, make sure there weren't any people from the public that.
I'll try to.
No, you don't have to rush, it's just, I put the time on the agenda, so in case people from the public wanna talk, a specific time, but you're good to go.
We get a lot of this stuff, you know, interior remodel, some of it's from fires, not a lot of it, but, you know, first thing anybody does is they buy a house, they wanna remodel it, I guess, I don't know why, but anyway, I don't care. But, you know, we can recycle the sinks out of it and the metal stuff, and there's a broken toilet right here. And one of the things you have to be a little bit careful about is modern appliances and fixtures are very efficient compared to ones that were made 20 years ago.
Even 10 years.
So you get a toilet in and the toilet's fine. I mean, nothing wrong with it, you know, but uses what, 3-4 gallons of water to flush the toilet every time. Well, you don't want to put that back out, you know, just bury it and go get a good one that uses 1.5 gallons, you know? So,
That's the thing with reusing some stuff too, is it's not up to code.
yeah,
So if you get a toilet or a window or a door,
yeah, windows.
it's not
are-
always the code for the inspector for the new construction.
Right. Old windows would be fine for a greenhouse or something, but you don't want to put those at a house because they don't have any insulation factor.
Can't put them in a house.
Right.
It's like, you know, if it's being inspected.
Right. Yep, but
But you don't.
still you ought to take them if they're made out of aluminum, you know, so. Yeah, we get stuff like this. Now, you know, we'll pull this off and like you were asking, how do we sort this stuff? Well, our guys are unbelievable for the excavator. They can pick that bottle opener up off of that table and probably not scratch the table. So you know, you do it long enough, you get really good at it. And we could pick 80-90% of that stuff out with a machine, and then if we roll it over, somebody will grab the little pieces. And then when it goes to our landfill, a fellow named Lee Stedham, who lives at the landfill there, that is another one of our houses somebody stays in. Now, Lee doesn't technically work for me, but Lee goes on to the landfill and gets stuff out there that he can take himself, mostly metal stuff, wire and those kind of things. So there's another redundancy in that. If we don't hand pick everything out, and it's easy for him because when the trash compactor spreads it, you just walk up there and pick it up. He's got a helper that works with him, and he makes a really good living doing that. You know, here's where we are. I don't know if you all, anybody not know where we are. Or we're just a few miles down the road on Hawthorne Road, and our landfill is on Kincaid Loop, and we're on Hawthorne Road, just past the Sierra Crossing, just outside in fact, the city limits is right, the property next door to us in the city. Same thing with the landfill. Yeah, this cuts down a lot on environmental impact because a lot of places they're hauled at, you know, 20, 30, 40 miles, you know, and we're hauling at less than 10. So, you know, that helps out all around. Certainly helps us out too. It's convenient for the builders and stuff to haul to us. Now, when they come to our transfer station, which none of them go to the landfill, they're on a paved surface the whole time. They're never up in a muddy landfill and, you know, tear their vehicles up and that kind of stuff. That's our landfill, some of our equipment. Obviously, that's me, that's Les. Les has worked for us since,
I was born.
yeah, quite a while. He left, and that's her brother, Cody. So, this machine is a fine machine. It's many years old. It doesn't require depth. Diesel emission fluid. It doesn't have a computer on it. When you put diesel fuel in it and a battery and crank it, it'll run to work. This machine spends half of its time at John Deere plugged into a laptop because it doesn't work. And when you get in it, it doesn't even have a key. You get in it, you type a code in it, and it says, you know, I just don't think I feel like pushing trash today. Call John Deere, you know? Yeah, it was $200,000, yeah. So we've got, two of these. Our old one actually caught fire and was irreparable. And I looked all over for them. I found two of them in Montana, believe it or not. Cost me $20-something thousand a piece to get them moved here. But there's no way I was buying a new trash compactor. They're just insane. I mean, we're talking $750,000. And when you buy this stuff like this, I know you guys have no clue about this kind of thing, but all of the new emission systems on equipment have ruined equipment. They've taken stuff that was unbelievably reliable and just made it so it's finicky and requires ultra maintenance to keep it running. If one little sensor goes out, it tells that computer the fuel temperature's off. Well, it's all it'll do is on it. Yeah. So anyway, that's kind of one of my personal views. This is pretty much what it looks like out there. This area has had trash compacted in it. And then we get areas, we'll do like maybe an acre and a half or something. And this is cover material. And we have these huge piles of cover material out there that we keep here where we're working. This all has trash under it. And, you know, then periodically we just cover all that with a layer of 6 inches of dirt. We bought this in the early 90s. It was run, like I said before, from the 60s as a borrow and fill pit before anything was regulated. And then in the 80s, one of the relatives of the then owner took it over. And he wasn't a terrible guy. I mean, he'd done good back in the 40s, I guess, but he just didn't understand regulations. He wouldn't do any of the stuff he was supposed to do. He wasn't really taking stuff that was terrible or anything, but the county ended up shutting him down. They gave him every chance in the world. I went to all the meetings and everything. And he would not hire an engineer to certify his site plan. It's just simple stuff like that. But
This is what it looked like when you first.
Nope, that's it now.
no, that's it. A lot of it did look very similar to that. This whole back area out there was all uncovered just left.
I have a question about the underlying soil there. If you were to scrape all the surface debris, what kind of soil are you dealing with? It's mostly, there's not that much clay, but there's some.
There's hard pan. There's a good bit of sand down about 10 or 15 feet. And then it's hard pan, which is the top of the Hawthorne Formation. And that's probably 125 feet thick there. And then there's a superficial aquifer that's intermediate on the site. And that's given us a lot of trouble over the years with groundwater flow. Not because of what it does, but it's just, at times it'll look like the water's flowing a little bit this way, and then, you know, you get rain, it flows back that way. That's because it's not just a smooth area underneath it. The hard pan is pitted. So as you get, you know, if it's full here, and I don't know how to explain it exactly, I'd have to be drawing or something, but it'll look like the water, generally the water flows from the northeast to the southwest. But to answer your question, it's a sandy clay and then clay. Basically, the Hawthorne Formation, it's not the same gumbo clay that you get over on the I-75 corridor, but it's a real hard pan type clay.
And you said that you observe it. You do different things based on these observations?
No, not really. No, sir. Well, one of the different things we do is the regulatory agencies will require us to put in additional monitoring wells. Like if it looks like the flow, like we've had a real vast change in water in our area in the last, I don't know, 6 or 8 years or so. So we're actually gonna put in a few more wells, because in one corner, in the northeast corner, it's, I don't think it's gonna do any good, but we got permission from the farm next door to put a couple of thermometers in there and try to determine more which direction the water flow is going. But I don't really know what that matters. I mean, you know, it's just,
Well, are they required by, the state to put wells in and keep track of?
oh, we have,
Really
oh,
long,
yeah,
yeah.
we have an extensive groundwater monitoring system. We've had it since we started.
So do you know of any, I'm trying to understand, you know, entities like this. When you, if the state, what would the state, what observations would the state need to see to say, you gotta change behavior? I mean, in other words,
Illegal
why are the
dumping.
wells there and what's the?
Well, if you had, if you had, as an industry, they made it a behavior change and to stop taking CCA wood, for example, because there was some arsenic showing up in some wells around the state.
Okay.
And we had one well that, allowable limit for arsenic used to be 50 parts per million, and it was when we were first permitted. And then the EPA changed it to 10. And we did have one well. Now, keep in mind, our wells are, you know, 40, 45 feet from our trash. And we're going to have an impact. There's no doubt about it. When you put that much trash in that area, you're going to impact that area. But it's, you know, how far away you impact it. But so we had arsenic that got it, I think, to 13 or 14, which would have been no problem at all before, but now it's an issue. So we had to put in a compliance well. And as this well went down and became in compliance, the compliance well went up a little bit, not as much as that one, and then it went away. So, and we just had that for a couple of quarters or something, you know.
You interact with the St. John's Water Management District at all, or?
Other than getting permits for the stormwater system, not this really, EDA handles that part of it for us, the engineers. They never come and inspect, or I don't think they need to. You know, and that's a real kind of a pain, because DEP also permits all your stormwater stuff, and they're much more stringent than the St. John's is. But you still gotta get a St. John's permit. So I don't know why they just don't grant them authority and do it that way.
So you send your water quality monitoring info every 6 months to DEP, correct?
Yeah, we just got an amendment on our permit to go up higher, and they want us to do quarterly. I'm not sure for how long, but they want us to do quarterly monitoring. So,
So then if anything came up then that would trigger, I don't know, Patrick, do you have any insight for the question that George asked about the DEP?
I mean, we do the same type stuff for our solid waste facility as well, but we're not dealing with C&D, we're dealing with actual garbage. And they made us do liners, the new landfills for C&D require liners to over 1 ton of potash. Yeah, as long as you're not hitting the monitoring wells, they're gonna leave you alone pretty much.
And the primary, they're mostly concerned about the primary drinking water standards, so monitoring wells, from what I've seen. That's just all the way around, nobody enforces the secondary, the state,
now, if we started having stuff at our wells that was not from construction trash, you know, they would have enforcement authority. You know, if we started getting VOCs or, you know, pesticides or something, you know, yeah, stuff like that. You know, if we were taking waste in dry cleaners or something, that stuff would show up and they would know, and you'd be in a lot of trouble, you know. So that's, you know, they somewhat expect you to have something. Like when arsenic started showing up, they expected landfills would have that, and sure enough, they did. And I didn't think we were going to for the longest time, because we took CCA treated wood for years. I mean, it was just in the loads, you know.
Has lead paint ever been an issue?
No, it's not unpermitted to take, it would be unpermitted to take the paint, but not boards that are painted with it.
You don't see a whole
It's
lot of
almost
that anymore.
impossible to tell what kind of paint's what Anyway.
It hasn't been used in so long, you rarely see.
Well, anything built before 1978, if it's a residence, if somebody drills a hole in a baseboard or any place that might have lead paint, theoretically, they're supposed to be trained in lead paint mitigation. Yeah, it's a federal thing. The county and the city don't want to have anything to do with it. My understanding is the feds have like 1 or 2 people that cover the state of Florida. The penalties are pretty, like $35,000 if you violate it, but again, there's 2 guys covering the state. And again, the city and the county don't want to get involved. It's been in effect since, Bush, and it was resulted in a variety of lawsuits and court cases and stuff, but it's a real thing. And there's training you can take, classes. I mean, I did it, so I know there's classes you can take. It's like 1 or 2 days to get trained in mitigation. It has to do with if your guys are working in it and kicking up dust. If you kick up dust, the lead paint on a piece of baseboard and let the baby chews on it, not a problem. But if somebody drills it and creates dust, and it's apparently especially harmful for kids, and that's why this thing only applies to residences. Commercial buildings like Alachua General, and they tore that down. I mean, let it rip. There was no, no concern at all about lead paint. But anyway.
Well, I have a very personal relationship with lead. I come from a family of plumbers. In fact, I was a master plumber when I was 17 years old, and it was all lead and thicket pipe. I ate lunch with lead all over me. My clothes had lead all over me all the time. That might be what's wrong with it. So there you go. I can guarantee you, I've ingested a lot of microscopic lead in my life. Yeah.
Chromium, is that another sentinel since it's CCA? Isn't the first C chromium? That's a bad one.
I think so, yeah. And that's one of the parameters we test for chromium.
I can send you all some info, because like I said, we've been going around and around with Watson C&D. And so I can send you some info that I have dug up. That there's one that is state of Florida did study on all the C&D sites in the state to kind of look at what some of the common issues are. And then there's another one that talks about the CCA treated wood and their recommendations for the spotters and what the different colors and stuff like that. So I can send you all some of that stuff that I have. It's just kind of standard information.
Well, chromium is associated with the higher incidence of multiple sclerosis and some other things, and copper's raised that issue. That was part of it.
Yeah, this comes up because we had a spike at Watson, get it from the spike. That we didn't get.
You have a height restriction?
Yes, ma'am. Our previous height was 159.5. This is elevation from sea level, and we're currently permitted for 195. And we've raised the height 3 or 4 times since we've had the facility. We just asked for it when we need it. We go in and permit one big massive thing, which maybe we could have, I don't know, but it doesn't matter anyway. And that'll be as high as we'll go. It won't be probably going higher than that. That's just below, probably 5, 6, 8 feet below like a tall pine tree would be. So the ground level out there is about 120. So we're going up about 75 feet. That would be the very top. And that probably give us, with the remaining space we had before that, that'll give us about 1 million yards, which, I'll probably be a young 90 years old when that gets filled in. But that's one of the things we're not interested in. We're in a hauling business. We're not in a landfill business. We're in a hauling and sorting business. So at least I have to landfill the best. It costs me money too. I mean, it's very expensive to have a landfill. All the, like I said, the trash compactors and all that. Everything now is $250,000. I mean, everything you use is insane how much stuff costs. So I bought my first new loader in 1984. It was $60,000. And of course, I thought that was.
He still has it.
Oh, and I still have it. It still runs. It still works. my God, it's going to for a while too, you know? But, I would imagine that same size loader now has to be
Oh, yeah, 300.
300 or
350,
350,
yeah.
you know? I mean, it's
Sure.
just,
And it'll
it's
run when it
so
wants
sad
to.
that they took this unbelievable equipment, you know, excavators and all these things. It's just, they're force multipliers, like you cannot believe how much work you can do with them. And they put all these computers and stuff on them, and that was just a pain in the neck. They're great when they're working perfect, you know, but you know, they're down half the time, but anyway.
Hey, Paul, could I ask you about the previous slide, then? You bring it up here.
Hit it again, nope, hit it.
That it?
Yeah,
Yeah, how are the neighbors doing these days?
Well,
Have they,
all but about 8 or 10 of them are real happy with us. And the closest ones to us are all real happy with us, but as you get out a little further, some of them, we've taken them out, taken several of them out, toured the facility and stuff, and they say how much they like us, and they know the other neighbors all like us, but they're just basically philosophically opposed to landfill, and they think something else could be done with it. And I told them, I said, well, you know, if there's something I can do to mitigate that, you know, help with some other cause or something, I'd be glad to do that, you know. But I'm at an impasse. I don't know what to do. I mean, you can't please everybody all the time. Yeah. But, you know, Hutch Hutchinson lives right behind us. I know you all know who he is. You know, he's recently retired from the county commission. And Doug Hornbeck's there. Richard Heyman. I don't know if you all know Richard or not. There's a lot of people over there. Mark Brown, they have extensive environmental credentials. And, you know, Mark wasn't there then, but a lot of the rest of them were. Before I bought this place, you know, committed on it, I went around and talked to all the neighbors. Previous owner was Haley, and rightly so. And I went around and talked to all of them and told them, you know, this is what I want to do, because I've run into commissioners in the grocery store, and they're like, our place in Archer was coming up to re-permitted. Well, the county pulled this little trick on me. Instead of giving me 5 years, they gave me 2 and told me to buy that facility and fix it because they didn't want to have to deal with it. So I said, no, I don't want anything to do with that, you know. So my wife and I finally got the message that we were going to be in the landfill business. That's where we were going to be. So I went and talked to everybody out there, and I wasn't all that well received at first, you know, but then most of my neighbors out there are very practical people, you know. And we had a lot of meetings with them. And it was like this, well, and they actually checked my record in Archer to see if we did what we were supposed to do, and we do. And we also had an MSW transfer station in Archer that we ran for years. And, you know, we got a great reputation, and they told me what they wanted, and I told them, I'll do anything I can do for you, except it looks like I'm just going to have to be here, you know. So I don't know that they're thrilled that we're there, but they seem to be. And the comment was this last time when I went and asked to this last phase, I went out and put markers up to where we were going to be, so people out there show, you know, this is what we're going to ask for. And the comments by and large were fine with us. We don't care. We hope you're here forever, you know. So we restricted our hours when we I don't know if it's where we moved to the transfer station.
Yeah.
Prior to that, we never been open on the weekends, which, you know, we could be, but we only take trash from 8.
on one of the slides.
Is it?
Yeah. There you
Yeah.
go.
No loads arrive prior to 8:30, and we don't crank any equipment up there until after 9 a.m. And then no loads or equipment are operated after 4:30. And that's Monday through Friday, no weekends, no holidays, no nothing. The only people that go out there are us. And trash that is like from a demolition job where it's pre-sorted and somebody has looked through it. And it's not practical to take it to our transfer station because there's no sense of dumping a 20-yard load of sorted material on the ground in our transfer station and loading it back up, haul around the corner. Now, we do still have spotters at the landfill that go through the stuff to make sure everything's fine. But, and that was, you know, and then we said we want to build our place over there on Hawthorne Road. We got great support from everybody out there. At that time, it was everybody out there. I don't think anybody had a problem with it.
Can you talk a little bit about, I mean, it sounds like you built the transfer station to alleviate some of the concerns going through the neighborhood. And I'm just curious, like, what kind of extra, because now instead of taking all those dump trucks going through, now you've got just your 2 semis that you fill up, and so you just take those to the neighborhood. Did you have to buy those semi trucks
Oh, yeah, we had to buy everything. We bought all of it.
in order to do that because it's offside? Okay.
It's
Because
built.
I'm looking at all this heavy equipment and talking about the cost. I was just wondering how much extra like cost that went into that. If you could talk a little bit more about kind of like what the complaints were and how you dealt with it through the transfer station.
We didn't really have complaints, but, you know, we did create quite a bit of noise and dust over there. All the little loads and everything went there. The scales were there. The whole operation was right there. So by moving it over, and our place on Hawthorne Road is zone industrial. It was an old concrete plant that got repossessed along with the landfill. The people that owned it, they didn't operate the landfill very well. They didn't pay their bills. So we actually bought the foreclosure estimate for the property because everybody was scared to buy an old landfill, and the mortgage company wouldn't foreclose on it to own it. So they sold me the foreclosure papers, and I went down to Buddy Irby at the auction and bought the place. So with a whole lot of play money, because they owed a whole lot more than it's worth. But yeah, we spent a lot of money over there, but it's been well spent. I mean, we didn't realize how efficient that would be. I mean, Holly sits at her desk and sees everything that comes in there. And you'd be surprised when you've done it as long as we do it, and you hear a truck dump a load, we can tell you pretty close to what's in the load. I mean,
I
just
can
from the
hear
noise it makes.
The singles or the tiles or the, you know, and I'll perk up and be like, wait a minute, what was that? You get to where you're in tune with, I mean, it's my windows from here to you guys. I see every load that comes in.
And we used to get, you know, we put a can out for somebody, and they put a dead deer at the bottom of it and a whole bunch of nasty stuff.
They hide it.
Put some construction trash on the top, you know. And when we had the landfill, I mean, you know, you open the back door, you look in there, all construction trash, you dump it on the ground. Here's all this stuff, you know. So obviously we had to load it back up. Well, there's a little more chance of causing contamination or something doing it that way. Where we do it now, it's on concrete, and we have a collection system, a leachate collection system, and everything. So it gives us that extra level of protection, and it's just really, really efficient to be able to just literally walk a few feet and, you know, talk to the workers, the drivers, the people that come in. We've got people, some of the older contractors, not mentioning any names, not you, but they've been in here a million times, and they just insist on bringing their garbage with them, you know? So, you know, we know who they are, and the guys go out there, stand there, watch them unload the truck.
Or I'll hear them come to the
We can't
scale.
take that.
They
you know, you
answered
gotta
the
take that
questions a
back
little
with you.
shady, so I'll let them go, and I call the guys, I'm like, watch the guy in the red truck, he's a liar. Yeah, so they'll walk out there and they'll be like, yep, he's not dumping here, so I'm like,
Oh,
you
yeah.
know.
My truck is green.
Yeah, yeah,
Well, mostly it's the guys with the beard you have to
that's
watch.
right.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, a couple questions. One, you mentioned the single thing and how, you know, you think that's kind of a low hanging fruit for people if we just replace shingle roofs with metal roofs, that would go a long way. Are there any other like things that you see coming through a lot that you just wish that, you know, sites would use a different material or like any other kind of low hanging fruit like that?
Well, one of the things that happened a few years back, which was beneficial to everybody, was they used to use sheetrock, and they put sheetrock up, and it had joints, you know, released in the joints, and they would take the joint and they'd mud them in, and then a lot of times they would just paint the driveway, which they still do that in a lot of areas. But in our area, blue board became very popular. And what that does is that lets you use the entire sheet because you don't need that release of joint to put it together. So we don't see near as much drywall, wall board, whatever you want to call it, generated, especially for these apartment complexes and stuff as we used to. One of the tricks the drywall guys used to do, and so you know this, you know, they get paid by the board to put it up. So if they needed 80 boards, they could get the builder to order 100 and put 20 of them in the trash. They got paid for hanging them, you know?
I mean, so for instance, this last week, my son-in-law works for a commercial construction company down in Palm Beach County. And I went with him and anyway, to look at something they were doing there, but nobody knows what hard code is except even in Marion County.
I've heard that.
It's nuts. I don't get it. I mean, I've described this system because 95% of what's done in Alachua County, I mean, I think it's commercial work, not necessarily, but certainly residential.
A lot of it is too.
Yeah. And anyway, but the part you're talking about, I hadn't thought of that advantage too, but it is, I'm not saying it's not used anywhere, but wherever it's used, I don't know where it is, because nobody's ever heard of it other buildings I've talked to from other parts of the country and even within the state.
Yeah. Yeah, you just put it up and you take the joint, if it's fiberglass mesh, and then, like you said, you hard coat it, you just plaster the whole wall. And you see that everywhere here, you know?
Yeah.
It's more durable.
If you own a house in Gainesville or Alachua County has been built since say 1980, it's almost certainly.
Yep.
That's what the wall is.
So,
Blue board is the board, you put it on and hard coat it. It's a veneer plaster. Instead of just doing the joint, coming back and sanding it, put some more mud on it, sand it, come back, put some more mud on it. They just, the whole wall gets covered and it's over and done with. I mean, it's a one-shot deal. And it's usually done textured because it's faster that way, but they can do it smooth. They have to work it.
Is it, price comparison wise?
It's about the same. You know, that's a close one. It's not much different. Both materials and labor are pretty close.
yeah, things like, I haven't seen a lead shower pan. I mean, I see a few come in the trash, but nobody uses lead shower pans anymore. It's all composite stuff. In fact, there's some new stuff out now. You may know the name of it. Kind of a pink looking stuff with little squares on it. And it's supposed to be really the thing, you know?
Looters system.
Yeah, something system, yeah. I know a lot about building materials. Some of them I don't really know exactly what they do with them, but I see a lot of them, yeah. But I've built houses. I've built a few houses too, so I do know a little bit about it. But yeah, I mean, I could think on that for you, but I mean, some of the things, a lot of these people that kind of give me grief about, wow, I recycle more of that or whatever, you know, and even the county, like with their zero waste initiative and all that, that's all fine. But why you let people build 5,000 square foot houses? You know, why they have 4 bathrooms? You know, I mean, if you're that serious about it, you want to jump on me after somebody's put it in a container. Tell me build 1,000 square foot house with 1 big bathroom in it. That would cut down an awful lot on the waste, you know. But people don't want to do that. They want to come to me after it's dumped on the floor and say, well, you should do something with that, you know. Well, okay, what do you want me to do with it? You know, I've got a landfill, you know, I've gone through a lot of trouble to have that. You know, I don't want to use it any more than I have to, but there you go, you know. So, you know, we kind of get the bad end of that deal a little bit. It's like they all look at us, you know, like, you know, well, I'm not the one that built too big a house, you know.
This is well in line with that. If you ever look at architectural record, I don't subscribe. Every once in a while, architecture magazines, every ad is going to talk about green this, green that, energy that. You open up in the feature articles, these buildings, they're all glass. I mean, it's like, hello, or they got 16-foot ceilings. I mean, these things are not, but yet they're talking, you know, what they have convinced themselves that they're building.
Right.
I mean,
yep. Yeah, with 10,000 tons of air conditioning, you know, and everything's a trade-off. And I understand it falls on our responsibility to do what we can with the stuff because we're part of society. So I want people to be able to build a 5,000 square foot house if that's what they want. But I don't want them to totally wreck it for everybody else by doing it. So I don't know, I just thought I'd throw that in. You know, everybody looked at us and like, well, why to do something with that? Well, why to bring it here in the first place? You know?
I already did.
I'll run
But
through this pretty quick.
you gotta go back, keep hitting that next for you already. hit it
We
one more
just,
time.
we bought this place a couple of years ago. It's 6 acres of industrial property. We call it the old chicken factory. It wasn't a factory, it was a chicken slaughterhouse back from the 60s. I used to
Florida
go,
friars, I think.
yeah, I used to go there when I was in high school, and we get cases of chicken and barbecue and stuff. But this graffiti is actually not just errant graffiti. They had some guys come up from Miami and do all the buildings. It's pretty cool when you walk around in there. Yeah, it had some graffiti, not as before we had it. But, the building is in terrible shape.
The graffiti's holding it together.
But it's, what's that?
The graffiti's holding it together.
Yeah, well, they've been trying to sell me that thing for years and years, and finally they decided that, they take my offer on it, so something like it. But, where's the power?
Go back, there you go.
There we go, okay. This is in the back end of that area. This is, Mark, our neighbor. He was doing pallets there before we got there, and, you know, we bought the place, he said he wanted to stay and everything, and, we've helped him, you know, clean everything up and everything good. And this is one of these little things that the general public would have no idea about. You know, Mark recycles these pallets. He actually breaks them down. Like you get a pallet that some of the boards are messed up. So take another one with some of the boards messed up, make one good pallet out of it. He's got trucks that go around, pick up pallets all over. And he makes a good living doing that. He's a great guy. You know, we're glad to help him. We take him some pallets. People come out and look at our pallets. If you don't understand these industries, all they want is 48-40s that are 4-way. 48 by 40, and you can pick them up from either side, 4-way. That's something that could be done to help a whole lot with pallet weight. Is to standardize pallets or get companies to use more standardized pallets. Those fit side by side inside semis. We get a lot of pallets that are just weird sizes. And, you know.
He doesn't want to mark like I
No,
do.
Mark can't do anything with them, you know. If they're bigger than his, sometimes he could use the wood out of them. But, I don't understand why they don't have more standardized.
Who does he sell them to?
I think there's a company in Stitcher that buys most of them. I mean, they're kind of the broker.
Yeah.
Which we need to help him figure out some way to sell them direct. He's doing a lot of it anyway. So anyway, Mark's over there, and I don't feel too bad about the site. I haven't done anything with it, but he's over there. It's working out good, you know. And then we want to start taking stuff out of the trash and take it up here and sell it. Frankly, we haven't. We were on that place for 3 years, 4 years, something like that. I haven't done anything because I was waiting to see if I got permitted for additional space. I'm going to have to spend a lot of money over here. And if I don't have the waste stream coming into my transfer station, then I'm not going to have anything to take over. So I've gotten a lot of offers on the property actually for way more than I paid for it now, but I don't want to sell it. I want to keep it. And I'd like to have, you know, take used building materials over there and sell them, and maybe even have some new ones. So if people show up and they need, you know, a bunch of half-inch plywood, and we don't have all of it we need, we've got something that they could buy, you know. And then we had a guy approach us about wanting to put a food truck over there, so we're kind of looking into that. And we thought it'd be kind of neat, like on the weekends, just kind of have an open house, and you know, have some food trucks and
Farmers market.
have just some kind of easy Dunkin' booth or something, you know, just something that's fun, you know. And it's right there on Hawthorne Run, so it's a great location. So that's kind of one of our little future plans.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, there you go. But other than that, I guess that's about it, right?
Yep, that's it.
Here's kind of a little list I put together. I've made this list basically for the 8 or 10 people that had a problem with what we're doing out there in the southeast. And I just wanted them to know some of the things that we've done. And this is just the southeast. This is not all of Gainesville or anything like that. But there was a farm out there they call the Morning Glory Farm. It was out behind the Blueberry Farm. And It was run by it was owned by a Vietnam vet who was kind of cuckoo. And he just had 30, 40, 50 people living out there. And they would just straight junk out there by the truckload. Then he got where he was charging people at one time to dump out there, all above ground, you know. And it was just a horrendous mess. So, Joni Ellis wanted to buy it, and it was going to cost a fortune to clean it up. So some of my neighbor friends came to me and said, "Hey, you know, what about this?" And I said, "Well, you know, I'll be glad to help, you know." So we took equipment over there, and the neighbors all came. I mean, a lot of people volunteered. A lot of the stuff was so mixed that, you know, if we could get the construction track out, then we could haul that to our place, and we'd have to pay the county to dump it. So, you know, we sorted this stuff out. One of the neighbors got in contact with a car crush. He had like 50 or 100 cars out there, and they got a car crushing company out there, and they crushed the cars. And we ended up demolishing most of the buildings that were out there. So we were glad to do that, you know, clean that up. They've got a great homestead there now. Jody and Paul built a new place there. And I don't know if you're familiar with Woodbine and Flamingo Hammock, but that's where Hutch and a bunch of them live. Well, they've tried for years to get internet, and Cox wanted like $250,000 or something for the internet. Well, we had the same problem on Hawthorne Road. AT&T wanted $19,000 to run it down our road to us. Well, we put some cans out for Cox, and I happened to be driving a truck that day, and I asked the guy, Cox wanted about the same amount of money, and I asked the guy at the warehouse where I was picking a can up. I said, "Hey, you know anybody, you know, we could talk to?" And he said, "Yeah, I know somebody." So he introduced us to Sybil that works there at Cox. So we kind of struck up a friendship with Sybil. She works or does a lot with, I think, one of the listers where we help out the girls club and stuff. Yeah, girls club. And so she knew my sister and stuff. Well, anyway, we started working on it. We ended up getting our place hooked up by signing a 3-year contract, paying them $20,000 for Cox and dropping AT&T. So then I started working on getting Woodbine the same deal. And Doug Hornbeck and I would go and meet with Cox. And it took years. It took
2-3 years.
2-3 years. So we got them internet in there, and all they had to do was sign like 3-year contract. So we were kind of relentlessly on that, you know. I don't know, you can read the list, but we do a lot with Electrical Conservation Trust. We do some demo for them and clean up and stuff. When they bought the, what's the ranch thing out there? What's the name of it?
Yeah.
Yeah, Prairie Creek. They bought Prairie Creek. We were out there did some demo for them and stuff. And we demoed some other stuff for them, hauled railroad ties off property they bought. I love doing stuff like that. I get away from the office. She doesn't get to tell me what to do. You know? But I mean, I put that little list together just to show them that, you know, hey, you know, I mean, we're just
Anytime a neighbor calls and there's trash on the road or someone's dumped something somewhere, we'll just go get it. You know, we try to, even if it's not our, I mean, that's not our fault, but we just try to, we've got the equipment, we can help, we just go get it done.
yeah, they all dump for free from around there. We put cans up for them, and we're glad to do it. I mean, you know. But anyway, that's pretty much it. Sorry to take so much time. But
No, that was great.
That was
Great.
great.
I love it.
Yeah,
Really nice, you guys. And, yeah, a lot of respect for your business, and I really had no clue or leadership behind it. And now, yeah, really cool to learn about.
yeah. Well, if y'all want to come out anytime, just call and come out, or if you got questions or anything, if I can answer them, I will. You know, I've been doing it a while. I like to tell people there's a recycling path that's long and narrow. And if you go down that path, you'll see people recycling shingles, people recycling drink boxes. And you go a little further, there's people recycling tires, and there's bankruptcy attorneys. And you keep going down the path, and when you get way down the end of it, there's an oak tree with my name marked there. Anyway, but thank you so much for putting up with it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, so,
Sounds good.
does anybody else have any updates or things they want to share before we adjourn today?
I just have the one other item on the agenda to talk about October.
Oh, sure, right. Yeah, so October meeting. Summer, do we have anything down the pipe that we were considering? I don't remember that we were discussing it.
Yeah, I mean, like you said earlier, the solid waste and the C&D landfills, kind of taking up the air in the room, but, Florence hasn't submitted yet. And it's gonna take 3 to 4 months after they submit to even review it, to lead up to the hearing and things like that, so, let's see, what else there, we've been talking about air quality, so, but, Bettina and a couple other people, we had the Homegrown National Park, that's why I put that on there,
Oh,
somebody
right.
else had expressed interest in that, so with, it doesn't have to be October, but with the month coming up being so nice, I don't know if you wanna talk a little bit about that, Bettina?
So I contacted one of the co-founders of Homegrown National Park, Dr. Halimi. He's a professor, I think in Nebraska or somewhere. So he is a professor, I think in entomology. And I invited him to speak to us via Zoom, give us a presentation on, what exactly is the Homegrown National Park. And so I am really, really, really hopeful that we will get into this detail. But very briefly, what is this Homegrown National Park? It has to do with environmental destruction, that, natural areas are disappearing due to many reasons. And natural habitats are getting fragmented, and so that's bad for the environment. And what's bad for the environment is bad for us. That's just how in the end. And so he and another lady, they came up with the concept Homegrown National Park. And basically that means he wants to encourage as many people as possible to use their backyard, their front yard, whatever property they have, and plant native vegetation. And so his concept, he envisions that then let's say, okay, I'm doing this, right? I live on 2nd Avenue and my little plot is planted with native vegetation, and then I can get my plot put on a map. They have a map. It's really nice, that it's for the entire United States, not just for Florida, not just for Alaska County. And if a lot of people participate, there is a shred of natural area. Still interspersed with whatever, concrete and buildings and whatever, but it makes it a lot easier for native vegetation, native animals to thrive, and that helps our environment. Still to the birds in the backyard.
Oh, the backyard bird habitat with Audubon. Yeah, that's a good point. That is something
It's
similar.
similar, yeah.
But I think this is more far-reaching.
Well,
But
the
it's
only problem that's gonna creep up is homeowners association.
Yeah, I know, but, you can work with situations. I have a friend, she lives in a Hoa, and she wants to have native vegetation, and they said, well, you can do it in the back. So I guess I think people are getting more and more into how important this is. So, you just sort of start somewhere.
Well, that's a really good.
I also like, with this Homegrown National Park, individuals can really get engaged. They themselves can go to that map and say, hey, I want to put my little plot on the map. And it's kind of fun,
So is it your idea that we would have this professor that you contacted from Nebraska join us by Zoom at the October meeting?
Hopefully, yes. And then he could give us a lot more insight into, what exactly it is, why it is important, how we, for example, in Alachua County could benefit from this, and things like that. And he would be much more qualified than me, for example, we have a lot of good examples on why this is really important.
If he could emphasize how governments can support or erect barriers to this and so on, so that there was a real relevance besides the self-evident
Mhm.
relevance of taking care of our world, that would make it useful, because I suspect there are things that local governments can do that will either help or hurt.
Well, the extension office, they have the Florida Friendly Yard. It's a similar thing.
Yes,
But so, you know.
I understand that.
Florida
What I'm asking for is something that would make this relevant to our group, something we might be able to say, wow, we ought to propose the following to our county commission.
I agree, and so I kind of worded in my message, I tried to express that a little bit, how can you make this relevant to Alachua County and to the residents of Alachua County? And I actually thought that, the county commission, maybe they can take the lead, because, they manage land somewhere, somehow, right? Summer?
Yeah, that's what I was kind of thinking. Here's the map here, but I was kind of thinking as you're talking, that
And
maybe we have somebody from like Alachua County Trust talk, or, that's a really good idea to have some other local organizations talk at the same time, or
At the same time, yeah.
or subsequently, however, to kind of think about, what's already going on and how to capitalize on that. Like, I'm looking at this map of Gainesville. I don't
Yeah.
think the ACT lands are in there, but again, I'm not sure, is that the idea, or is the assumption that those have already been captured elsewhere and we're just looking at private property? I'm not sure, but yeah, I mean,
But those are things that could be discussed.
yeah.
Yeah, I like that idea to kind of have somebody local, to kind of chime in on how that we can incorporate it with existing efforts and kind of make it more relevant to what is already going on.
And ACT, but ACT has nothing to do with, the county commission, right? I mean, that's a separate unit. ACT.
Yeah, it's convoluted. There's Alachua County Trust, we do have a lands program. I mean, we do have a county lands program that has an advisory committee just like this. So they could come and talk, about how those two programs are managed together, because it is kind of confusing. And that way, if we couldn't get Doug, we could at least have that information.
Yes. And I'm hoping that maybe, if he can speak to us, maybe he can also recommend.
Yeah, he probably has somebody that can talk. There's one idea that, is the one that's been kicking around.
You asked about, or mentioned about air quality.
Yeah.
I've been looking at the user guide for the Ranger Air Monitor. And I'm trying to go through YouTube videos and, the user guide to sort of become familiar with this operation. And it's a relatively simple, device, very, very automated. I mean, you turn it on, you take a sensor, click it on, and it immediately starts producing data. I mean, it's unbelievable. And then you leave it on, pull one head up sensor off, put another sensor on, and it's giving you different data according to that sensor. And then the tricky part is doing the interpretation of the data, making real meaning out of it. But there's apparently software, so I have to start reading about that.
Yeah, I think how we left it, you and David were gonna kind of put a proposal together for what it would look like, and then bring it back to the committee, and then we could make a recommendation if it needs to go to the commission. As far as, we were kind of talking about citizen science monitoring, and so
Maybe renting one twice a year at most.
right, renting it, to just how to kick that off, and where the money would come from, and so then that would give us something to take to the commission for a request to purchase it.
I was hoping that if that was to happen, and we were to get a volunteer program like that going, that if a person, let's say myself or someone else, was trained, taught themselves how to use it, that the first time going out, a staff person from EPD, like Chris Gilbert, could accompany, because he's had experience with it. And that would really, I'd feel a little better about
that.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, it seems like we could find somebody who's got experience.
Pete, I think.
Yeah, I would like to.
It's not, obviously not that much, but other brands.
Yeah. Chris did commit to helping the program in whatever way possible, so you definitely have our support. I can also keep digging around as far as, who might be able to talk to us about citizen science, because it kind of overlaps, really, they fit into both the kind of citizen science, the Homegrown National Park and the air quality, so.
And
And-
there's,
One last thing, I'm still accumulating, papers on plastic, nano,
Okay, okay.
so I'm just. continuing.
Well, I mean, that gives us some options. Oh, go ahead.
and just very, very quickly, the nighttime light pollution, I think that's also actually a very easy topic because there's a lot of good information out there, so I would start, collating some of it and sharing.
One other quick question that we're talking about topics, the climate change committee that started up like a few years ago. We haven't really corresponded with them in a couple of years. I don't know what they're up to, but maybe we should.
I was actually gonna send you guys a YouTube link because I found the YouTube for the climate fair that they did back in June. It's now up. So want me to send that link and that kind of lets you know where they're at. So I'll send that along with, the other handout on, being the landfill. Yeah, I just saw that today. I don't know if it just got loaded or I just found it, but I was like, oh, even I didn't get to go to that. So I was really, I mean, I went to the, after there were two parts of it. There was a workshop, with, I think, some community leaders and whatnot, and then there was the fair after. So I was at the fair afterwards, but this looks like it was the workshop that they did. So that's a great idea. I'll send that to you all.
You know, it's very, very quickly, because I'm really interested in that. I know you guys, you went to a workshop on ground cover in Iceland. Maybe you didn't go, but
Oh,
some people really.
I wanted to go, God, they offered, they have so many good things, and they're always at Tuesdays from 3 to 4 p.m., which is if we have an item in the commission meeting on Tuesday, that's exactly when it comes up. So I have signed up for, I think, that one and a million others and didn't.
But could you get that information for us and share that with us?
On ground cover,
On ground cover.
let me see what I can do.
Or shady area? or
Yeah, I'm not
something.
sure
In general,
What?
I don't know if they,
for land taking.
you know, if they. No, if they only covered shady areas or if they only covered sunny areas. That's what I mean.
I'll get a hold of IFIT to see what they have, or if they probably have, resources from that presentation. So let me get a hold of them and see. And, like, none of this is set in stone as far as like, what's the next meeting, just get a hold of me. You know, and then I'll work with Nisha, we'll get together toward the end of the month and finalize.
All right, thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Everyone.
I just think, let me find Zoom and stuff. Online.
No, that's not.
Yeah.
Get everybody's name.